We regret to inform you that Dolly Parton has passed away. Over 3,000 songs were written by her, depending on who is calculating and how. Her wealth is believed to be between $450 million and $650 million. She transformed a two-room home in Tennessee's Smoky Mountains into one of the most well-known figures in American music history. She transformed poverty into a brand so potent that blonde wigs and rhinestones became a statement rather than a costume. On the 21st of August, 2026, 4 days before her passing, she took a seat and discreetly informed everyone that she had not been feeling well. However, underneath that remarkable legacy is a narrative that is profoundly, painfully human rather than spectacular. For months, she had been discreetly coping with health issues, including kidney stones, dehydration, and dizziness, which made her postpone travel and reschedule engagements. Nevertheless, she persisted because Dolly Parton never gave up. From the moment she left Locust Ridge with nothing more than a guitar and a voice capable of both shattering glass and mending hearts, it was the one thing she never stopped doing. What actually took place throughout the last several months? In reality, what do we know? What is it that the family won't say? And how did a young woman who slept in a one-room shanty grow up to become one of the wealthiest women in American history? One woman sobbed all the way to the bank after turning down Elvis Presley. Hit Leica's homage to the lady who penned 3,000 songs if Dolly Parton ever gave you hope that a song may save a life. Because the fact that she passed away with all of her creations was not an accident. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't charm. She made a choice in the 1970s that altered the path of music history and created an empire that survived everyone who attempted to steal a piece of it. Dolly Parton chatted with People magazine on the 21st of August 2026, 4 days before the world found that she had passed away. She didn't address the audience from a platform. She didn't talk from behind a light-catching microphone covered in diamonds. She spoke softly, in the manner of someone who has made the decision to quit acting as though everything is all right. She informed them, "I am dealing with some health issues that I simply didn't pay attention to when I was watching over Carl." Her 58-year spouse, Carl Dean, had passed away earlier that year. And Dolly Parton had done what she had always done with her own suffering over the months she had spent keeping an eye on him, taking care of him, and sitting next to him during his last days. She had put it down. She had taken care of someone else first. The woman was that. The woman was always that. The health problems she mentioned were not brand new. The Mirror US corroborated allegations that she had been dealing with kidney stones, dehydration, and lightheadedness in the months preceding that August. In an 80-year-old lady, kidney stones are a serious condition. They compel cancellations. They make you rest. They make a lady who hasn't stopped moving in 60 years grudgingly halt at last. She had previously withdrawn from travel and canceled performances. She had informed her loved ones in September 2025 that she required, in her own words, a few operations. She said it casually and with a kind of droll acceptance that made you think it was nothing, even though it was something, the way Dolly always said tough things. Following in his father Larry's footsteps, her nephew, Brian Seaver, who had been her head of security for almost 20 years, made a video statement on the 25th of August, 2026. He talked with caution. His voice had the weight of a man who had been asked to bear something that was nearly too heavy for him to handle. He remarked, "This video announcement is something Dolly asked of me years ago, before I fully absorbed it as a future reality." She was ready for him. She had, of course. Dolly Parton has dedicated her whole life to arranging every detail, planning for every eventuality, and leaving nothing up to chance. The same calm care that she dedicated to everything else had been used to organize even this, her own farewell. The reason of death was not made public. It was not named by Brian Seaver. It was not given a name by the publicist. As of the 25th of August 2026, the Sevier County, Tennessee, medical examiner has not yet identified the official cause of death. The family only confirmed that she had struggled with her health in her last months, that she had not been well, and that, according to Brian Seaver, she was now in Jesus' arms, where Carl, her parents, and innumerable others who had watched her and wished for her to meet them in the heavens would undoubtedly meet her. The family decided to only say that, and because the conclusion is not the narrative of Dolly Parton, maybe that's all there is to say about it. 80 years ago, In a two-room cottage on Locust Ridge in a country so impoverished that a patched coat was considered a luxury, Dolly Parton's story began. And a young girl made the decision to own everything she ever created before she could fully comprehend the implications of her choice. The Globe has created its own version of Dolly Parton, the type of fame you could put on a coffee mug and sell at a truck stop in Tennessee. Blonde, boisterous, sparkly, a living cartoon, cozy, humorous, and secure. That rendition was authentic, but it was also a costume in every exact and intentional definition of the word. Beneath it was a far more complex lady. The fourth of 12 children. She was born on the 19th of January, 1946, in a one-room cabin on Locust Ridge in Sevier County, Tennessee. Robert Lee Parton, her father, was a farmer of maize and tobacco who signed official documents with an X. He was a man of the country and mostly illiterate. After being married at the age of 15, her mother, Avie Lee, had children for the next few years with the silent perseverance of a woman with no other option. By all accounts, the family was quite impoverished, not in terms of romance or cinematography. The way it leaves markings is poor, the type of impoverished where a child's coat created from patches of discarded cloth becomes a lifelong memory. Later on, Dolly would compose a song about the coat. It was dubbed "Coat of Many Colors" by her. It was the most autobiographical song she had ever written, according to her. She claimed that when her mother made it from rags, she recounted her the biblical narrative of Joseph, transforming poverty into scripture and scraps into something holy. Dolly Parton discovered then what she would prove for 60 years. The narrative you create about something shapes its future. Before she was really aware that it was a decision, she was singing. She was doing religious performances at the age of 6. She began performing on Knoxville local radio at the age of 10. She released her debut song at the age of 13 on a modest label based in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And the day she became the first person in her family to graduate from Sevier County High School in 1964, she packed one bag, boarded a Greyhound bus, and headed for Nashville. Her entire hometown turned out to watch her depart, she later said. Her age was 17. Dolly Parton was not anticipated in Nashville in 1964. She spent years creating songs for other musicians, making pitches, and understanding the workings of a business that was set up to exploit individuals just like her, those without resources, connections, or leverage, and return as little as possible. She was aware of this. She grasped it with the unique clarity of someone who has grown up witnessing grown-ups being used because they were unaware of the norms. After learning the rules, Dolly Parton discovered how to change them. Her visage became well known throughout America when she joined the nationally syndicated Porter Wagoner Show in 1967. Porter Wagoner provided her with the platform. Porter Wagoner was also the first significant test of Dolly Parton's character, both personally and professionally. In his own opinion, he had found her. In his own opinion, he had built her. It would take years for it to become evident that he was mistaken on both points. During these years, she started creating the image. The wigs, which eventually numbered over 100, were kept in a special area, cataloged, and cared for. They weren't vanities. They were effective. In a matter of minutes, she may be prepared. Without the distraction of natural hair, she could perform in the sweltering summer heat. She could instantly and clearly be herself in any setting, on any stage, or, more accurately, the version of herself she had determined the world would see right away and clearly. She did the makeup, the rhinestones, and the nails with the dexterity of an artist and the self-awareness of a comic. She once said, "To look this cheap, it takes a lot of money." The sentence had a philosophy in it, yet she laughed as she uttered it. The picture cost a lot of money. The picture was computed. The picture was armor, the multicolored rhinestone equivalent of her mother's coat, pieced together from various items to make a cold-resistant garment. She was always cautious to make it clear that she wasn't the image. The woman who had decided to wear it was her. She subsequently remarked, with the unique calm of someone who has long ago given up seeking acceptance from others, "I'm not offended by all the dumb blonde jokes because I know I'm not dumb, and I also know I'm not blonde." Beneath the image, the songs were the reality. Over 3,000 of them throughout a 6-decade career. The main job was done in the silence, so she woke up early to write them between 3 and 4 in the morning. When a melody came, she penned them on hotel napkins, the backs of envelopes, and whatever else she could get her hands on. With the constancy of someone who had been given this work by a force greater than ambition, she wrote about love, loss, God, loneliness, the Smoky Mountains, her mother, poverty, resiliency, and joy. She reportedly said, "My songs are my diary." 3,000 entries. Dolly Parton owned everything she wrote, so all 3,000 days were captured in melody and rhyme. Not by chance, not by accident, by choice, via rejection, by the strong, unyielding demand of a Locust Ridge lady who had witnessed too many people suffer too much and made the early decision that it would not happen to her. The most well-known performer in the world would show up to test that choice. Dolly Parton penned a song about leaving in the middle of the 1970s. She composed it about Porter Wagoner, the guy who had given her her first national stage, who had influenced her early career in many ways, and who she was now getting ready to leave after 7 years. In only 3 minutes and 32 seconds, the song was a proclamation of independence, an apology, and a farewell. Before she went, she played it for him. He shed tears. She shed tears. Nevertheless, she left the room after that. "I Will Always Love You" was the name she gave it. In 1974, it peaked at #1 on the Billboard country charts. When she re-recorded it in 1982, it peaked at #1 once more. Then, in the middle of the 1970s, in the window between those two chart runs, when the song had already become one of the most well-known country compositions of its time, a phone call came in that would define not only her financial future, but also the entirety of Dolly Parton's identity as a businesswoman, an artist, and a person who had grown up with nothing and had made the decision that nothing would ever be taken from her again. Elvis Presley's camp made the call. "I Will Always Love You" was something Elvis wanted to record. This was not a minor issue. Elvis Presley remained one of the most lucrative names in American music in 1975. It was more than just an honor to be recorded by Elvis. It was a business event. It meant that few artists could produce radio play on such a large scale. It meant a steady supply of royalties that might support a career for many years. It meant being associated with a tale so significant that the association itself was worth money. The terms were offered by Elvis Presley's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, whose grasp of bargaining was based solely on the idea of obtaining maximum value for his client, regardless of the cost to anybody else. In exchange for Elvis recording the song, Dolly Parton would give up 50% of the intellectual property, 50% of the publishing rights, and 50% of the money the song had already made and would continue to make as long as copyright laws were in place. "No," Dolly Parton said. She didn't instantly say nay. After returning home, she gave it some thought. She considered what it meant to turn down Elvis Presley, the king, the guy whose image appeared on every American television screen, whose performances sold out arenas in a matter of minutes, and whose albums were events. She sobbed as she considered the implications for her career, reputation, and connection with an industry that relied on favoritism, access, and the goodwill of influential men. According to her own story, she sobbed for days because she adored Elvis. She cherished his music. Despite her admiration for what a recording by him would have meant, she declined. She would later recall, "I cried all the way to the bank. The song was not recorded by Elvis." His folks went on, and the song remained in Dolly Parton's collection for an additional 17 years, completely hers. "I Will Always Love You" was recorded in 1992 by Whitney Houston, a 29-year-old vocalist from Newark, New Jersey, for the soundtrack of the movie The Bodyguard. The original was not accurately captured in the recording. It was a vocal performance reinterpretation that was so powerful and ambitious that it effectively took the place of the original in the public's mind. It went on to become the best-selling single that a female artist had ever recorded. It topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 14 weeks. Over 20 million copies were sold globally, and Dolly Parton received full royalties from each and every one of those copies. She received an estimated $20 million from Whitney Houston's recording of the song she wrote about leaving Porter Wagoner alone. This $20 million came from a decision she made while grieving, sitting by herself with a call from Elvis Presley's camp, and deciding to prioritize her own ownership over everything else the opportunity offered. More than any other detail in Dolly Parton's life, this choice best captures her financial acumen. It's not because the money was substantial, though it was, but rather because of what the choice required. At a time when she could not have predicted that a better chance would present itself in 17 years, she had to turn down the world's most powerful performer. She had to have faith in the song, in her own effort, and in the worth of what she had produced, which no one else's name could produce or replace. Locust Ridge was where she had discovered this. Her mother had taught her how to convert poverty into something a kid would keep with her for the rest of her life by using pieces of cloth and telling a narrative about Joseph while she stitched. It was always the same lesson. Anything you possess is the single thing that no one can take away, and the narrative you tell about it shapes what it becomes. By the time Whitney Houston's rendition of "I Will Always Love You" was off the charts, Dolly Parton had over 3,000 songs in her publishing inventory, all of which were entirely her own. The catalog's current estimated value is about $150 million. Dollywood is not included in that figure. The royalties are not included. The real estate, film and television partnerships, licensing agreements, merchandising, and charitable empire she established on top of her wealth are not included. It is only the worth of the lyrics and melodies she wrote over the course of 6 decades in hotel rooms, tour buses, and peaceful nooks in a life that was anything but calm after waking up at 3 and 4 in the morning. Every syllable belonged to her. Every note belonged to her. When she had taken the decision to prioritize her career above the king in the middle of the 1970s, she had done it in a moment of anguish and clarity. And that decision is the most accurate and comprehensive representation of Dolly Parton, more so than the rhinestones, wigs, and the image she had meticulously and self-consciously created. Not glitzy, but remarkable. Depending on who you ask, the number varies. Dolly Parton was ranked 78th on Forbes' list of the wealthiest self-made women in America in June 2025, with a net worth of $450 million. Celebrity Net Worth calculated the amount at $650 million, using a different technique and a more comprehensive estimate of her assets. The $200 million difference between the two figures is not the result of negligence. It is a mirror of something more intriguing. Because Dolly Parton's creation does not cleanly fall into the categories that financial experts favor, it is a reflection of how truly tough it is to put a price on it. She didn't start a tech company. She did not inherit anything. She did not inherit a business, marry into a wealthy family, or develop a single product with $1 billion valuation. One choice at a time, the composer from a 2-room cabin in Sevier County, Tennessee, created an empire. Additionally, the empire was so multifaceted, multi-layered, and intricately entwined with American society that a method of accounting beyond spreadsheets is needed to arrive at a single, precise figure. Let's start with the catalog. In a business that has traditionally profited by isolating artists from the intellectual property they produce, more than 3,000 songs have been amassed over the course of 6 decades of unrelenting early morning composing sessions, with full publishing rights intact. The estimated value of the catalog is more than $150 million. That number includes thousands of compositions that have been recorded by other artists, licensed for film and television, covered in every conceivable genre, and performed in every part of the world for the better part of 60 years. In addition to the well-known songs like Jolene, Coat of Many Colors, 9 to 5, and I Will Always Love You. Not from a single success, the collection makes an estimated $85 million in royalties per year, from the total weight of 3,000 distinct acts of production, all of which were fully owned and continued to provide income long after they were written. The greatest non-musical asset in her portfolio is Dollywood, a theme park she co-owns in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It was constructed on the site of an older attraction known as Silver Dollar City. It is reported that she has a $165 million interest in Dollywood. Her father signed legal documents with an X because no one had ever taught him how to write his own name, and the park attracts about 3 million visitors annually, bringing in money for the business as well as the local economy of Sevier County, where she was born. She did not forget where she came from. She built an economic engine in the middle of it. Beyond the catalog and the park, the fortune draws from multiple additional streams, each one the product of a deliberate decision rather than a fortunate accident. Film and television, spanning decades of performing, producing, and licensing, starting with her Academy Award-nominated work on the 9 to 5 soundtrack in 1980. Through brand licensing, her name and image became a commercial asset that can be seen on anything from cookbooks to perfume to Christmas items. The Willow Lake Plantation property in Brentwood, Tennessee, is one example of real estate that demonstrates the extent of her riches and the caution with which she handled it. She didn't flaunt her wealth. While everyone else was staring at the wigs, there was a lady who silently constructed it behind the rhinestones. And then there is generosity, which is inextricably linked to wealth rather than distinct from it because Dolly Parton grasped a concept that very few affluent people do. She realized that giving is not a waste of money when done with the same care and attention to detail as everything else. It expresses the purpose of the fortune. She gave $1 million to Vanderbilt University Medical Center in 2020 to support research while a COVID-19 vaccine was still a long way off. The Moderna vaccine was developed as a direct result of such study. She didn't make the announcement to get attention. She wanted other donations to follow, so she made the announcement. They did. She received $100 million from Jeff Bezos in 2022 as part of his Courage and Civility Award, which recognized her charity work and had no usage limits. Most of it was donated to libraries, literacy initiatives, and the Imagination Library, an organization she started in 1995 that had given over 260 million books to children in 5 different countries by the time of her death. From birth to age 5, one book is mailed to enrolled children's homes each month at no cost to their families, free. Because she had experienced the lack of books in her home as a child and had never forgotten what it was like. Her father had used an X to sign his name. She created a program that gave 260 million kids access to literature. In the end, the architecture of Dolly Parton's riches is more fascinating than its math, regardless of the final figure, 450 million or 650 million. She did not amass fortune by stealing. She amassed it by her creation, her ownership of what she produced, and her refusal to give away what was rightfully hers at every pivotal moment with every influential person who approached her with a contract intended to extract rather than honor. Locust Ridge was where she had learnt it. She had shown Elvis how to do it. With Whitney Houston, she had demonstrated this. The issue of its exact monetary value nearly misses the mark since she had spent the 60 years in between creating something so vast and firmly established in American soil. The fact that she constructed it herself is what matters. Each dollar, each song, each book delivered to a child who would grow up without realizing that the lady who sent it was once that youngster. For years, Brian Seaver had anticipated this moment. He was familiar with it in the same way that someone who has been compelled to carry something without being permitted to set it down is familiar with it quietly, continuously, in the background of everything else. Prior to him, his father Larry had been Dolly Parton's chief of security. After Larry, Brian had assumed the position. Standing on the brink of the same life, 2 generations of the same family trusted the same woman to keep them safe. Additionally, Dolly had asked Brian to perform one last thing for her years. Prior to the 25th of August, 2026, she had requested that he be the one to inform everyone. In the clip he made public that morning, he added, "This video announcement is something Dolly asked of me years ago before I fully absorbed it as a future reality." He hesitated. It was audible in his voice. The burden of a guy who had spent years practicing a moment for which he was ultimately ill-prepared. I had imagined the weight of this moment, having served as her head of security for almost 20 years, a position my father Larry held before me.